They said he would never rise again, that a single man could not challenge a system built on centuries of fear and greed. But when his village was burned and his people silenced, something awakened inside him, something greater than vengeance. He became a voice for the forgotten, a shadow the powerful could no longer ignore. From the dust of oppression, he marched toward destiny, carrying an entire nation's hope on his shoulders. But how far would he go for freedom, and what would he lose along the way? Before his name echoed through the streets and villages of Africa, Ibrahim Thore was just a soldier, a man born in the red dust of a forgotten land. His early days were marked by discipline, humility, and a quiet fire that no uniform could hide. He served under flags that were not his own, taking orders from voices that spoke of peace, yet enforced silence. In the mornings, he trained young recruits who believed in honor. At night, he wrote letters to his mother, promising her that one day he would build a home where her people could live without fear. His life was simple: duty, faith, and loyalty. But beneath the calm, he saw the truth. The land he loved was being stripped of its dignity, its people treated as tools, its leaders bribed into silence. One afternoon, while leading his men through a quiet border village, he saw soldiers, foreign soldiers, take what was not theirs. The screams of the villagers still haunted him long after the smoke had cleared. That was the moment something shifted. Ibrahim began to question the orders, the purpose, and the price of obedience. Every salute felt heavier, every command colder. He didn't know it yet, but the man who once followed orders was about to become the man who defied them. The storm began quietly. It started with whispers in the barracks, soldiers questioning why they were sent to patrol villages instead of protecting them. Supplies meant for communities disappeared into the pockets of officials. When Ibrahim Thore spoke out, they called him disobedient. But he wasn't trying to rebel. He was trying to remind them of their oath, to defend the people, not oppress them. Soon, the system turned its eyes on him. His letters stopped reaching home. His name was quietly erased from promotion lists. One evening, his closest friend, Lieutenant Musa, warned him, "They're watching you. They say your loyalty is dangerous." But Ibrahim didn't stop. He began gathering those who still believed in the soul of their country, men and women who dreamed of an Africa not ruled by fear or foreign influence. They met in abandoned classrooms, by candlelight, their voices hushed, but hearts burning with conviction. Outside, injustice grew louder. Farmers were forced to give up their crops for the good of the state. Young men disappeared after questioning officials. The news only told one story, the government's story. But Ibrahim had seen the truth, and he knew silence was no longer an option. The first march began with just 20 people, workers, students, mothers. They carried no weapons, only signs that read, "We are our own masters." The government called them traitors. The army, his army, was ordered to open fire. Ibrahim stood among the crowd as the first shots echoed. He watched in horror as those he once protected fell to the ground. Blood mixed with dust beneath the same flag he once saluted. That night, he made his choice. He would no longer serve a system built on fear. He would stand with his people, even if it meant becoming an enemy to his own. Days turned into weeks of unrest. Villages rose in defiance. The movement spread faster than the government could contain it. Ibrahim's name became a whisper of hope, then a chant, then a roar. But every victory came with a cost. Musa was captured. The resistance's safe houses were burned. Propaganda painted Ibrahim as a traitor, a power-hungry soldier seeking chaos. Yet the people didn't believe it. They had seen his courage, his tears, his humanity. Then came the night that changed everything. The capital erupted in protest. Tens of thousands filled the streets, demanding freedom. The government declared martial law. Tanks rolled through the city, lights cut out, and radios went silent. Ibrahim was forced to make an impossible decision: surrender and protect his followers from massacre, or fight back and risk plunging the nation into war. In the darkness, as gunfire echoed in the distance, he looked out over the city he once swore to defend. The air was thick with smoke and fear, but beneath it, a strange calm filled him. He realized something profound. A man can be killed, but an idea cannot. That night he disappeared from the city, but his message spread across borders. A movement had begun, and somewhere in the chaos, the soldier who sought peace was becoming something far greater. He was becoming a symbol. The sun never rose that morning. A thick smoke hung over the capital, as if the sky itself mourned what was coming. Ibrahim Thore stood at the edge of the old government compound, surrounded by what was left of his loyal men. The air trembled with the sound of approaching helicopters. The regime had found them. He could hear the chants outside. "Freedom! Justice! Africa must stand!" Thousands of voices refusing to be silenced. But within minutes, the crowd's courage would meet the military's wrath. A messenger rushed in. "They're coming, sir. They want you alive. For now." Ibrahim looked around, faces young and terrified, yet burning with the same conviction he once carried. He knew surrender meant death, not just for him, but for everything they had built. He closed his eyes for a moment, remembering his mother's words. True leaders do not live forever, but their courage does. He stepped out into the open courtyard as soldiers surrounded him. Guns pointed. His men raised theirs in defiance. The world seemed to freeze. One heartbeat stretched into eternity. And then, the first shot rang out. Bullets tore through the air. Ibrahim didn't run. He stood tall, shouting over the chaos, "Do not fight for me! Fight for Africa!" His voice cut through the smoke like thunder. Even as the gunfire grew deafening, his words echoed beyond the courtyard, carried by the wind, repeated by the people outside who refused to back down. When the shooting stopped, the silence was unbearable. Ibrahim Thore lay wounded, but unbroken, his blood staining the same soil he had sworn to free. Soldiers stepped back, unsure, because even in defeat, he looked like victory. And as news of his capture spread, the chants outside grew louder, fiercer, unstoppable. The man was gone, but his voice had become a nation's heartbeat. Because that day, Africa didn't lose a soldier. It found a leader. They said the revolution died the day Ibrahim Thore was captured, but they were wrong. His silence became louder than any speech, his image painted on walls, his words whispered in classrooms, his dream carried by the very people they tried to break. Months after his arrest, something remarkable began to unfold. Soldiers once loyal to the regime refused to fire on unarmed civilians. Workers went on strike. Students filled the streets with the same chant he had shouted in his final stand, "Do not fight for me. Fight for Africa." Governments rise and fall, but ideas, they have no borders. What Ibrahim began was not a war, but a reckoning. He had shown that leadership is not about titles or uniforms, but about sacrifice. And though the regime tried to bury his name, it only planted a seed, one that grew into a movement for unity, justice, and pride across nations that had long been divided. Years later, when the country finally held free elections, old veterans and young dreamers alike spoke of him as if he were still alive. His story became a lesson that true power does not come from fear, but from the courage to stand when standing alone. And somewhere in the heart of Africa, a mother looks at her son and says, "Remember, you come from the blood of those who refused to kneel." Because Ibrahim Thore's fight was never just his own. It was every African's reminder that freedom is not given. It's claimed. So the question remains, if one soldier could ignite a continent's hope, what could we do if we stood together?